It was supposed to be a quiet, somber day. Friends and family had gathered under gray skies, hearts heavy with grief, to say goodbye to a young soul taken too soon. An old man, eyes worn from years of hard living and heartache, stood silently near the casket his granddaughter's. But as the ceremony unfolded, something just didn't sit right with him. It wasn't the weather, or the tears, or the sorrow in the air. It was a feeling, a cold whisper in his gut telling him that this wasn't just a tragic accident. Something felt off as people placed flowers gently on the casket. He kept scanning the crowd. Certain faces looked too calm. One man avoided eye contact altogether. The old man had been through enough in life to trust his instinct, saying they were screaming now. This wasn't just grief. This was something darker, buried just beneath the surface. He couldn't shake the feeling, even when the service ended and people began to leave. That night, unable to sleep, he opened the box of his granddaughter's belongings that had been returned to him. Inside was her phone, cracked but still working. He charged it, sat down at the kitchen table, and started scrolling. And that's when he saw it. A photo, a message, a video. Something that changed everything he thought he knew about his granddaughters. Death, his hands trembled. His jaw clenched. This wasn't an accident, and someone out there knew exactly what happened. But who? And why? Stay with me, because what this old man uncovers next will not only turn a funeral into a full-blown investigation, will lead to a shocking truth that no one saw coming. Harold couldn't shake that one message from his mind: "You talk. You'll regret it." It sounded like a threat, clear as day. But from who? And what was Emily supposed to stay quiet about? He printed the screenshot, circled the letter R at the top, and pinned it next to the charger and journal on the wall in his shed. It was starting to look like a detective board, but he needed to see everything laid out in front of him. This wasn't just grief anymore. This was a trayland. He was following it. He thought about the man with the black SUV. That detail had come up more than once. He decided to pay a visit to a local diner where a few of Emily's friends used to hang out. One waitress, a soft-spoken girl named Lacey, remembered the guy. He was older than her. Not like old, but maybe late 30s. He came in a couple times, always sat at the back booth. Never ordered much, just watched. Harold's skin prickled. Did he ever say his name? No, but Emily didn't seem comfortable around him. I remember once she asked me to walk her out after her shift. She brushed it off, but she looked scared. That small moment hit Harold hard. His granddaughter had been surrounded by people, but no one had realized just how deep her fear went. Meanwhile, something else started tugging at Emily's mother. His daughter-in-law hadn't asked many questions after the funeral. She grieved quietly, but distant, almost too quiet. Harold started to wonder if she knew something, if maybe Emily had tried to reach out and been ignored, or worse, if someone close to them was keeping secrets. The pieces weren't fitting yet. But Harold knew one thing for sure: someone wasn't. Telling the truth, late one night, Harold sat alone in his shed, staring at the clues on the wall: the journal, the message from R, the phone charger, and a printed screenshot of Emily's last video. The pieces were still scattered, but the fear in her voice echoed louder than ever. He couldn't sleep. He kept replaying her words. He won't leave me alone. I don't know what he wants anymore. It wasn't just some jealous boyfriend. This was deeper, more dangerous. He decided to go back to the crash site one more time. This time, he brought a flashlight and searched beyond the creek into the woods nearby. That's when he saw them tire tracks, fresh ones. Someone else had been coming back here, and recently. His flashlight followed the marks to a small clearing where he found something buried under loose leaves. A torn envelope. Inside, a folded piece of paper with the words, "She found out." No name. No date. Just that. Harold stood frozen, Found out what? Back in town the next day, Harold parked across from the sheriff's office and watched. Deputy Lawson stepped out, laughing with another officer. That's when Harold saw it. Lawson got into a black SUV. His stomach dropped. The same make. Same model, same look as the one Emily's friends described. Was it possible? Harold didn't want to believe it, but the signs were there. The quick dismissal of the case, the refusal to follow up on the evidence, and now this. He pulled back and drove away quietly, heart racing. If Lawson was involved, Emily's death wasn't just a tragedy, it was a cover-up. Everything was coming to a boiling point. The truth was close now, too close. And someone out there was watching every step Harold made. The next morning, Harold woke to find a plain white envelope taped to his front door. No stamp, no name, just his name written in shaky handwriting. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It showed Emily standing in front of a cabin, her eyes wide, caught mid-step. She looked surprised, maybe even frightened. But it wasn't the photo itself that chilled Harold. It was what was written on the back. She knew too much. Walk away, Harold. His hands trembled as he held the photo. This wasn't just a warning, it was a threat. Whoever was behind this knew exactly what Harold was doing and how close he was getting. He locked the doors, pulled the curtains closed, and sat at the kitchen table staring at the message. Who had been at his house? And more importantly, how long had they been watching? He called the one person he hadn't spoken to yet, his daughter-in-law, Lisa Mealy's mother. Her voice cracked when she picked up. "I was wondering when you'd call," she said softly. "I didn't know how to tell you. But I think Emily was in trouble before the crash. She said something about the cabin. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to scare her more." Harold felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. The cabin, the same one from the photo. It was real. Kay and Lisa had known something. But before he could press for more, Lisa whispered, "I think they're listening. I can't talk right now. Just don't trust anyone in uniform." The line went dead. Harold sat frozen, his mind racing. If Lisa was scared too, this was bigger than just Lawson or a stalker. The truth wasn't just buried, it was being protected, and someone was willing to silence anyone who got too close. Harold followed the only lead left, the cabin. After 2 days of digging through old county records and hand-drawn maps, he found it deep in the woods, forgotten and hidden behind thick brush. It was abandoned, at least at first glance. The windows were boarded, the door half-rotted, but Harold noticed fresh tire tracks leading to the side. Someone had been here recently. He crept inside, flashlight in hand, heart pounding. The air smelled of mold and dust, but in the back room, behind a loose panel, he found a locked metal box. Inside, printed emails, photos, and handwritten notes in Emily's handwriting. She had been collecting evidence, names, dates, payments, at the center of it all was a name Harold hadn't seen yet. Councilman Ray Donovan, a well-known figure in town. And right below it, Deputy Lawson's name, linked to hush payments and cover-ups. Emily had discovered that they were using local freelance hires to help launder money through fake city contracts. Her design gig had been a front. When she started asking questions, they started following her, then threatening her. Suddenly, footsteps crunched outside. Harold grabbed the box and slipped out the back just in time to see a black SUV pulling up. Lawson stepped out, gun drawn. "It's over, old man," he said, voice cold. But before he could move further, another voice rang out. "Put it down, Lawson." 2 state investigators emerged from the trees Harold had tipped them off the night before, using the evidence he'd pieced together. Lawson froze, realizing the trap had already closed as he was arrested. Harold felt the weight of weeks lift from his chest, but just as he turned to leave, one of the agents handed him a note found inside the box. It simply read, "There's still one more. Harold's eyes narrowed. The fight wasn't over yet. The days that followed were heavy, but for the first time in weeks, Harold could breathe. The arrest of Deputy Lawson and the exposure of Councilman Donovan's scheme shook the town. News outlets swarmed, digging into years of corruption, and Emily's name became the symbol of a truth that refused to stay buried. Her story was no longer about a tragic accident. It was about courage, about standing up even when afraid. The note, "There's still one more," lingered in Harold's mind. But state authorities assured him that with the evidence Emily had gathered, they were already tracking others involved. It turned out Emily had sent copies of her findings to an old college friend out of state, just in case. That friend came forward, helping confirm every detail. Harold spent time restoring his home, walking the farm, talking more often with Lisa, who had started going to therapy to face her guilt. They weren't close before, but the tragedy had created a bond between them, one built on shared pain and silent promises to honor. Emily's memory. The town held a small memorial for Emily once the truth came out. Not one filled with quiet tears and confusion like the funeral, but one with color music and her paintings on display. People finally knew who she really was, not just a girl lost in a crash, but someone who fought to do the right thing even when no one listened. Harold sat near the back. Watching the candles flicker in the evening breeze, he held her journal. In his lap, thumb resting on the page, she wrote days before her death. If a